1 minute ago, the UK Supreme Court dropped a bombshell. They have ordered Prime Minister Keir Starmer to step down, and it is all over a jaw-dropping £124,000 financial scandal. This isn't just politics, it's a constitutional shocker that has left Westminster reeling, journalists scrambling, and the country in uproar. Hold on tight. What you're about to hear is a game changer. A political earthquake has rocked Britain. Earlier today, the Supreme Court delivered a verdict so explosive it is sending shockwaves across the nation. Chief Justice Dame Sue Carr, speaking with grave authority, laid bare a scandal that threatens everything Keir Starmer has built and everything Britain was promised. For the first time in modern history, Britain's highest court hasn't just uncovered a Prime Minister's dirty laundry. They've publicly rebuked him and issued a demand, resign now. The allegations are explosive. A mysterious £124,000 discrepancy in Starmer's family property sale, declared at far less than its real value, £39,000 in luxury gifts hidden from disclosure, suspicious offshore deals, dubious perks from donors, and whispers of a plan to silence political rivals. This is more than scandal. It's a full-blown constitutional reckoning. Whispers in Westminster have turned into a roar of outrage. Auditors, insiders and judges have painted a picture of a Prime Minister whose financial transparency isn't just murky, it's deliberately obfuscated. The Supreme Court statement dismantles Starmer's image of controlled competence. They argued powerfully that this isn't a minor accounting error. This is systemic ethical failure, and it goes to the heart of Britain's democratic foundations. Behind closed doors, concern had been festering for months. Government officials quietly raised red flags about murky financial records, but the government's response was denial, deflection, and damage control. Then the leaks came. Independent journalists unearthed documents showing £124,000 in undervalued house sale profits. Suddenly, the judiciary could no longer stay silent. The pressure mounting around Keir Starmer has reached an unbearable intensity. And as Britain watches with bated breath, the truth behind the £124,000 scandal grows darker by the hour. Inside Number 10, panic has set in. Advisors are frantically rewriting statements. Allies are distancing themselves and opposition parties are sharpening their knives. What began as a minor whisper about an underdeclared property transaction has now exploded into a national outrage, threatening not only Starmer's career, but the stability of his entire administration. The Supreme Court's ruling was unflinching and merciless. It wasn't just a legal rebuke, it was a moral indictment. In crystal clear language, the court accused Starmer of violating the ministerial code and misleading both Parliament and the public. The heart of the scandal lies in the sale of a North London property owned by Starmer's family. According to newly released land registry documents and HMRC valuations, the property was sold at a suspiciously discounted rate, triggering alarms among auditors and anti-corruption watchdogs. The missing £124,000 wasn't a clerical error. It was flagged by two independent accounting firms as a deliberate undervaluation. This amount should have been declared as part of Starmer's parliamentary register of interests. It wasn't. Even more damning were allegations that Starmer personally intervened to prevent full disclosure, allegedly instructing aides to avoid triggering internal reviews that would expose the financial anomaly. The Supreme Court cited these actions as a direct breach of public trust, concluding that Starmer knowingly failed to uphold transparency standards expected of a Prime Minister. But that's only the beginning. Investigations soon revealed a tangle of luxury perks and hidden donations that had gone unreported. A £39,000 gift from a wealthy legal donor, believed to be connected to an offshore trust, was concealed for over a year. Lavish holidays, business class flights and consulting fees disguised as research grants have all surfaced in a flurry of leaked emails and bank statements. All signs point to a carefully constructed facade of compliance behind which lay a deeply compromised system of favours, cover-ups and possible illegal financing. The Supreme Court ruling emphasised not just the breach but the pattern, a series of evasive practices by the Prime Minister pointing to a culture of concealment. As the final judgment read, no British leader in modern history has been subjected to such a public and categorical reprimand from the judiciary. Inside Parliament, the response has been swift and fierce. Tory MPs are calling for an immediate vote of no confidence. Reform UK, emboldened by rising support, is demanding a general election. Even within Labour, cracks are forming. Several shadow ministers are said to be considering resignations if Starmer refuses to step aside. One anonymous cabinet source told journalists, "This has gone too far. Keir has to put the country before himself." Behind closed doors, the Labour leadership is locked in emergency meetings, trying to assess whether any path remains to salvage Starmer's premiership. With every hour, public confidence in Starmer crumbles further. Protests have erupted outside Westminster. Crowds chanting "Resign now" and "Clean politics for Britain" have taken over Parliament Square. Social media is ablaze with fury. Hashtags like #Starmer scandal and #Supreme Court Resign Now are trending across all platforms. Former allies, including Labour grandees and union leaders, are going quiet or issuing carefully worded statements that avoid endorsing the Prime Minister. The Guardian published a scathing editorial demanding that Starmer face accountability. Even the BBC, typically cautious in its tone, ran the headline. Judicial shock, Supreme Court orders PM to resign, and yet Starmer remains silent. No statement, no apology, just silence. For a man once praised for his discipline and moral clarity, the contrast could not be more devastating. Insiders describe the Prime Minister as stunned and defensive, unwilling to admit wrongdoing. His team is reportedly preparing a legal counter-argument, suggesting the court may have overstepped constitutional boundaries by calling for a resignation, but legal experts strongly disagree. According to constitutional lawyers, the Supreme Court has every right to interpret and enforce ethical standards for public office, especially when financial misconduct is involved. The ruling is not only legally binding, but morally definitive. Meanwhile, whispers of even deeper corruption are beginning to surface. Investigative journalists are digging into connections between Starmer's donors and foreign lobbying interests. One explosive report suggests that a portion of the undeclared funds may have originated from international legal consortiums that previously sought government contracts. If proven, this could escalate the matter from a domestic scandal to an international crisis. The intelligence community is reportedly on alert. Officials from MI5 have been asked to review all past communications linked to Starmer's financial advisors, looking for signs of foreign influence. The nation's top security officials have been briefed on the matter. The question is no longer whether Keir Starmer will resign. It's how long he can withstand the growing storm. The walls are closing in. The judiciary has spoken. The public is outraged. His own party is turning cold. Every path forward leads to one unavoidable reality. Britain can no longer trust its Prime Minister. The days of commanding respect in the Commons, of leading with moral clarity, are over. What remains now is a shattered reputation and a mountain of legal and political fallout. In the eyes of many, the Prime Minister has already lost the mandate to govern. The longer he stays, the deeper the crisis will cut. As the Supreme Court's order continues to dominate every major news cycle, the political landscape across the United Kingdom begins to fracture under the immense weight of Starmer's £124,000 scandal. What was once a steady march toward the next general election has now turned into a full-blown constitutional emergency. Civil servants in Whitehall are reportedly preparing contingency plans for a caretaker government. The Cabinet Office, usually shielded from party drama, has been forced to confront the possibility of a Prime Minister stepping down mid-term under judicial instruction, a scenario not witnessed in modern British history. Political commentators, stunned by the Supreme Court's wording, have described the judgment as unprecedented, not only for its clarity, but for its direct confrontation with executive power. The court accused Starmer of deliberate opacity and repeated obstruction, words that now hang like a sword over the Labour leader's head. Behind the scenes, the Labour Party is in meltdown. Party officials are desperately trying to prevent a mass defection from disillusioned MPs who no longer wish to associate themselves with what many now label a terminally damaged government. Rumours swell that at least 15 Labour MPs have opened private discussions with Reform UK and the Liberal Democrats, exploring escape routes should the party refuse to force Starmer's resignation. One MP, speaking anonymously to reporters, described the situation as worse than the Corbyn years. This is radioactive. Union leaders, once stalwart supporters of Starmer, have begun pulling financial support in quiet protest. Unite the Union, a major Labour backer, issued a blunt statement urging complete accountability from all those in power without naming Starmer directly. Yet the implication was unmistakable. The chaos has not gone unnoticed abroad. International observers are watching with concern as the United Kingdom, once a bastion of legal integrity and political decorum, finds its leadership entangled in a courtroom scandal with global implications. European leaders are reportedly reassessing negotiations on multiple trade agreements, awaiting a resolution to the UK's internal turmoil. The US State Department has issued a carefully worded bulletin acknowledging the Supreme Court's decision and urging a swift and lawful conclusion to the matter. The damage to Britain's diplomatic credibility is now undeniable. For foreign investors and allies alike, the image of a Prime Minister defying a court-ordered resignation over undeclared wealth paints a picture of instability. The stakes have escalated far beyond domestic politics. Public trust in the government is in freefall. A newly released Ipsos Mori poll reveals that 72% of the population believe Starmer should resign immediately following the Supreme Court's ruling. Shockingly, even 48% of Labour voters agree. These numbers are catastrophic. The opposition is capitalising on the chaos. Rishi Sunak, seizing the moment, gave a fiery speech in Parliament, condemning the Prime Minister's silence and demanding an urgent recall of the Commons to debate the implications of the ruling. The rule of law is not optional. No one is above it, not even the Prime Minister, Sunak declared as fellow Conservatives banged their desks in approval. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage delivered a blistering monologue outside Parliament, warning that if Starmer refuses to resign, the people themselves would demand his removal through mass protest and civil pressure. Indeed, Farage's words appear prophetic. Across cities in England, Wales and Scotland, demonstrations are intensifying. In Manchester, tens of thousands gathered with placards reading, "Court has spoken, Starmer must go." In Glasgow, protesters have held mock trials, publicly reenacting the Supreme Court's findings with damning symbolic effect. Social media platforms are flooded with real-time footage of protests, chants, and demands for immediate political accountability. The atmosphere feels combustible, teetering on the edge of civil unrest. Piers Morgan, never one to mince words, summed it up on his broadcast. This isn't just a scandal, it's a breakdown of leadership on a scale we've never seen. Even Labour's most loyal media allies are beginning to retreat. Columnists from The Mirror, The New Statesman and Channel 4 News have shifted tone, now openly debating the timeline of Starmer's exit rather than defending his position. Political insiders whisper of backbenchers preparing an emergency leadership challenge. Angela Rayner, once thought to be a loyal deputy, is reportedly in talks with senior party officials about becoming interim leader should Starmer finally relent. But as of now, he hasn't. Despite the overwhelming storm, Keir Starmer remains defiantly entrenched in number 10. His aides insist he's preparing a televised address to the nation. But every hour of delay only inflames speculation and resentment. What is he waiting for? What can he possibly say to undo the legal and political judgment that now defines his legacy? Leaked WhatsApp messages from within Labour's leadership circle reveal a party paralysed by indecision. Messages reviewed by journalists show senior staff admitting they don't have a plan for this and can't agree on a strategy that doesn't make things worse. The gravity of the moment is obvious. Any misstep now could lead to an electoral bloodbath, and the Conservative Party knows it. Reports suggest Tory strategists are already drafting campaign materials centred on Starmer's scandal. Reform UK has released targeted ads branding Labour as the party of secrecy. The Liberal Democrats have called for an immediate constitutional inquiry. Political pressure is being applied from every direction, and Labour's once commanding lead in the polls has vanished in a matter of days. Still, the most haunting silence remains that of Starmer himself. As Britain waits for his response, the unanswered questions loom larger than ever. Why did he hide the £124,000? Who else knew? Was this a lone mistake or the tip of a much larger iceberg of corruption? Each minute without clarity feeds new conspiracies and worsens public outrage. If Starmer truly believes he can weather this crisis without stepping down, he may be underestimating just how deep the country's anger runs. Legal experts, political veterans and ordinary citizens are united in rare agreement. The Prime Minister's time is up. As the final hours of Keir Starmer's premiership appear to approach, the tension across Britain is suffocating. The Supreme Court's ruling has not only ignited political chaos, but cracked the very foundation of Labour's moral claim to power. The Prime Minister's silence has stretched from hours into days, feeding a tidal wave of anger that no longer confines itself to social media or street protests. Calls for immediate action are now spilling into Parliament, news studios and town halls across the nation. Legal scholars, constitutional experts and former judges have begun speaking publicly about the obligation, not merely the recommendation, for the Prime Minister to vacate his post. In a stunning statement, Lord Neuberger, former President of the Supreme Court, declared, "There can be no negotiation with the rule of law. The Prime Minister must obey or forfeit all claim to democratic legitimacy. The message is stark and the clock is ticking." Meanwhile, Labour's internal machinery is overheating. Several shadow cabinet members have gone dark, avoiding press, skipping meetings and allegedly preparing resignation letters behind closed doors. Leaked internal memos reveal the party's election strategists are scrapping entire campaign plans as voter trust has collapsed in record time. A confidential internal poll shared on political forums reveals a sharp dip of 26 points in Labour's core swing regions. Red wall constituencies Labour hope to reclaim from the Conservatives are slipping out of reach overnight. Even London boroughs, previously thought to be unshakable Labour strongholds, now show a dangerous rise in Reform UK popularity. One Labour strategist reportedly remarked, "If Starmer doesn't resign within days, he'll take all of us down with him." In the streets, the anger is not just growing, it is hardening into a movement. British citizens from all walks of life have joined the chorus demanding Starmer's immediate departure. From university campuses to working class estates, from pub debates to community halls, the consensus is loud and unambiguous. The court has spoken and the country demands justice. Grassroots campaigns have emerged with hashtags like #Starmer Resign Now and #Respect the Court trending globally. Videos of veterans, NHS workers and pensioners all calling for accountability have gone viral. Their words strike deep. Ordinary people feel betrayed by a man who campaigned on transparency and is now clinging to power in defiance of the law. Even historically political figures, sports stars, musicians and clergy have issued public statements urging Starmer to go. The betrayal is no longer seen as political. It is deeply personal. Complicating matters further, whispers of deeper financial misconduct are beginning to circulate. Investigative journalists, emboldened by the court's findings, are now digging into years of expense claims, private donations, and suspicious consultancy arrangements linked to the Prime Minister. A major expose from a respected financial watchdog is expected to drop within days, promising to reveal a network of undeclared assets and donor favours that could unravel what remains of Starmer's credibility. The £124,000 scandal may in fact be only the surface of a far deeper problem. The public, sensing blood, is becoming increasingly impatient. What was once outrage is now turning into a thirst for exposure, retribution and total transparency, no matter how high the fallout reaches. Despite all this, Starmer's communications team continues to stall. In a brief and vague statement, a spokesperson said the Prime Minister is carefully reviewing the court's ruling and weighing the legal and political considerations. But such bureaucratic language has only inflamed the situation. Legal experts were quick to point out that the ruling was not advisory, it was binding. delay is not just dangerous, it is unlawful. The Attorney General has been pressed to issue formal legal advice to force a transition of power. And meanwhile, Parliament is facing mounting pressure to pass an emergency motion of no confidence. Backbench Labour MPs are working with opposition members to gather the required votes. If passed, such a motion could trigger an election or force the palace to intervene. The gravity of this constitutional deadlock is unparalleled in the post-war era. Inside Buckingham Palace, sources claim the monarch has been kept fully informed of the unfolding crisis, while the king traditionally avoids involvement in partisan politics. Insiders suggest discussions about invoking reserve powers are quietly taking place. If Starmer refuses to resign or Parliament fails to act, the monarch could be constitutionally obligated to dismiss the Prime Minister to preserve the integrity of the nation. This is no longer theoretical. Former royal advisers have confirmed such scenarios are being quietly rehearsed behind closed doors. The situation has now transformed into a test not only of political leadership, but of Britain's entire democratic framework. At the heart of the storm remains one man, Keir Starmer, a barrister by profession, once celebrated for prosecuting criminals and upholding justice. He now stands accused of flouting the very laws he once defended. His legacy, once promising and reformist, has been shattered in real time. The £124,000 scandal is no longer about money. It's about truth, power, and whether the United Kingdom still expects its